everything.
And on that note, welcome to another episode
Yes.
of Duncan and Bo Come Correct. This season has been
This year, but
has been Duncan and Bo /fiction.
It's not over yet.
It is
Still a whole other season.
But this one's
Don't
supposed to be
even with
better.
it. Fucking like anything's better compared to this.
So, thanks for joining us on a brisk, here at least, it's a brisk morning just before Christmas. Duncan, of course, has doffed his Santa hat.
I'm already on the booze. So.
Oh, well played, sir. I Irished up this coffee.
Good man. I like where this is going. It's nothing to do with the
Let me. All right.
Speaking about this fucking show that we're medicating ourselves early.
This will not play at all on the audio version. But so the coffee mug I have, if you can see, Duncan, hang on, I'm gonna.
There's a Santa on it. I saw Santa.
It is.
It's all bows.
It's me as Sasquatch and me and Brandy as Santa and Mrs. Claus. And on my coffee mug. So
yeah, international man of mystery. That's you, Bo Ransdell. A man of disguises, many disguises. Who is he today? Oh, he's a Sasquatch.
Soon I'll be the turtle. So anyway, we've got to get to business because there is, as you put it, a hard out. Which is
I'm
good.
a hard out at 5 today. Like otherwise, we will be here dissecting the everything that's wrong with this TV show. I just don't have the energy anymore, Bo.
I like that we're on a time limit because it forces us to kind of get in and get out on this guy.
Yeah. Also, we were saying off air, this is technically your last recording of the year.
And yours.
This is also technically my last recording of the year as well. So this is the last bit of business we have to do before we get fully festive. And by that I mean fully naked.
Naked and intoxicated. That's my Christmas.
So that's my tattoo.
Yeah. So
I'm above my penis.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in a different place. Like I'm recording this from my upstairs office today. So I can keep an eye on my dog. And
you got a pupper?
I got a dog. Yeah, he's not a puppy. This dog is 5 years old. His
Puppeh.
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 His primary functions are sleeping and farting.
Yeah. And
he's great at both.
Excellent.
And
that's all you need, man.
Yeah, no, he's great, but I'm, again, just keeping an eye on him because this is I've only had him for like a week yesterday. And so it's that. All right, so I've told this story elsewhere, but I'll tell it to you real fast. So I've wanted a dog for a long time because it's been years since I've had one, and I love dogs. I've got 2 cats, but I'm really a dog person at heart. But mostly it was because I was commuting all the time and didn't have time for a dog, that kind of thing. And so, with the pandemic and my work changed, so I mostly work from home, I had the opportunity to get a dog, but I just haven't because I was like, I got an old cat and let's let her live out her life in relative peace. But then my lovely girlfriend, Brandy, decided like she wanted to get a dog. And I was like, great, I don't have to get a dog then.
Yeah.
And but then she discovered 2 dogs. Their owner had passed away not so long ago. They were, they grew up together. They were kenneled together at the shelter even. And so she was like, hey, how about I get one, you get the other? And then, when I come over or she comes over here or whatever, that we can bring the dogs and they get along and all that stuff. And
nice.
So that's how it shook out. And so Johnson is now the official mascot. That's his name. Came with the name. And
I know what that means in America as well. So.
Yeah. I don't know if that's why, although I'm telling you, this guy's kind of packing. Every now and again, I'll look at it like I'm like, man, I don't know if you've got a big dick for a dog or I just have not been around enough dogs. Where I'm like, that's just an average sized dick, but he seems like he's neutered, or he's fixed. He can't, he's shooting blinks and whatnot, but
doesn't stop them though.
Kind of a package. And but he's again just an absolute sweetheart. He's been great with the cats and all that stuff. They have been less enthused.
Cats can be like that, but you'll be fine.
Yeah, right. But he's totally fine. So, but I'm keeping an eye so that he does not, chew anything up or shit, which he has not done. He has been really good. Like it's been a real
if he's
treat.
at 5 years old, a lot of those bad habits are gone unless they're there to stay, if you know what I mean. So he should be all right.
Yeah, no, he's just been a real treat to have around. He's a great dog.
Nice. I want to say happy holidays to Alan, who posted happy holidays, gent. So hopefully things are well where you are in Canada, and we hope you enjoy the misery that we're about to go through on this episode.
Oh, Canada, my hail and native land. I think those are the words.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm still trying to work out exactly how we ended up here. I want to see this was still your idea. This season was my idea. Clearly,
this season, skip it. Slasher. Look, I'm not taking the full blame for this. Slasher was both of our idea, because I said I had watched the first episode and it was garbage, and then you watch it and you were like, we ought to do this.
Yeah, it sounds like something I would say.
And that's what led us down this dark path. But before we get into that, let's talk about some movies we watched, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, let me start with a good.
Yeah, go for it.
Because it's a movie that you've recommended to me, and I loved it.
Well, let's do it together then.
And that movie is My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To.
How fucking good is that movie, by the way?
That is, what a wonderful movie. What a wonderful film. Much like the comparison I've been making is to something like Relic, where
that's good.
It is largely a drama about here's what it does to a family when you're caring for a sick relative.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think Patrick Fugit is so good in that movie. It's just heartbreaking. Here's the other thing that's great about My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To, other than the title, which is a good title. That movie is under 90 minutes long.
Yeah.
It gets in, it makes its point. It's not like super fast paced, but like, who cares, because you're only in it for under 90 minutes and it does what it does. And at the end of the movie, I was like, that was it. It almost has a The Graduate kind of ending, where you're like, good for him. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, his life is still kind of fucked.
I compared it, like, to me, I had the kind of tautness of storytelling in the Battery. Super cheap movie. Gets in, like you say, it knows exactly what it can do with its budget, and knows exactly how long it needs to be on the screen. Has great casting at its core, and that's all you need.
Turns out, you have a good script, good performances, and a pacing that lets you say everything you want to say through the course of this movie, and then you bounce,
and that's it.
And that's it. And it was so affecting. Like, ever since I saw it last week, I have been just fixated on it. Like, I think about the movie a lot. And
it's great.
It's
man.
really,
really good.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm doing that end of the year. Like, let me catch the movies that I haven't seen yet. And that was one that was like, oh shit, this just rocketed to the top of my list.
it's one of those ones. I like doing that as well, but I also I don't like doing it where the point where you're like, my list is looking pretty good, and then you watch like one or two movies right at the end of the year, and like, my list is fucked. I mean, why'd I even bother making these lists? Because they just get ruined at the end of the year. So yeah. So no, it's a great movie. It's kind of something kind of special, though.
Very much so.
I will counter with another movie that's in a similar genre, a similar runtime, even though they've recently discovered an almost 3-hour cut of the movie. For Doing the Nasty, I rewatched Martin by George A. Romero.
I talked to Mark just the other night, as a matter of fact, and he talked about how Martin did not belong on the same show as Hellscape or whatever the movie was.
Hell Prison.
Hell Prison, right.
Which is just like Hell Prison is just porn. Like, and there's no getting around it. It is 100% smut, distributed by Troma in 1980. And it is essentially, it's a woman in prison movie, but set in the Amazon or some shit like that. Some tedious link to that. And it is every second frame is naked women washing themselves in showers.
Sure.
And then every scene out with that is the guards either doing something to a woman or a woman doing something to a guard. Until the last like 10 minutes when it's like, we should really, like maybe they should escape. Oh yeah, we should do an escape plot, right? Let's put that in at the last 10 minutes, and then they do that.
Should there be a plot? Oh yeah, Jim. There should be a plot.
Well, what I didn't know, and I found out as part of the, because I was clipping, if you've never seen the Video Nasty documentary, I highly recommend it. There's 2 documentaries, and one covers the section 1 and 2, and the other one covers the section 3 list. The one that covers the section 3 list is a delight to watch, because you get these talking heads introducing the trailers to all the movies, all these film historians, critics, etc. And it was a doctor, like some woman or something, was introducing Hell Prison, and she was talking about like how it does actually have a political message, and I was like, that's stretching things. But what I didn't know is it was recut by Charles Band in 1985 as a movie called, I think it's Savage Island, which stars Linda Blair.
Yeah, I was wondering, that sounded familiar. Maybe that's why.
So Linda Blair's apparently only in it for like about 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And it's like she's a character that escapes the prison, so she wreaks her vengeance with a gun and like an action movie at the end sort of thing for those 3 minutes. But what she said to Charles, and this is the innocence in the 1980s and people not know what Charles Band is actually like. She asked at the time when they were shooting the shots of her that she not be used in any way to promote the movie, because she's only in it for a couple of minutes, and she's literally all over the fucking posters.
Oh, sure. Linda Blair stars in Savage Island. Yeah.
But she's it's Linda Blair. It's a drawing of her, like, so it's like someone's done like a cartoon drawing of her. And basically like a thong with a bazooka. Which she doesn't have in the movie.
Right, but that's, you know,
why not? Like, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Right.
So, like, yeah. So Martin was the one that I really like to talk about. So that one is now. It was supposed to be getting its 4K UHD release next year from Second Sight, and now Second Sight have come out and said, "Listen, we're currently actively investigating this 3-hour black and white cut that George Romero wanted to do originally for the movie." So it's been unearthed somewhere. So they're now trying to acquire that so they can put it out on the release, which will probably delay everything about a year. But Martin is it's a super fucking good movie. It's like, it's an effortlessly good movie. It's very, very, very smart. It's well ahead of its time. It's got a really interesting commentary on kind of mental health, and, you know, specifically the idea of, well, this is the 70s, it's kind of not cool to do, you know, Christopher Lee as Dracula anymore. We need to do something different. So that kind of retelling works surprisingly well. And yeah, and then I blew Mark's mind, because Mark didn't know that in Italy, Dario Argento recut the movie and released it as, I think a lot of people don't know this. It must be those in the UK that know this. Released it as, and I shit you not, the name of the movie was Vampire.
Well, it's better than, like, you know, the Disco Vampire or something. But
Vampire. But you know what? He recut the movie to make more linear sense to him. And the whole movie was scored by Goblin.
No shit. I'd be
Goblin,
interested to hear that score.
Rescored the whole fucking thing. Got Goblin to rescore the whole movie, recut it all in, and released it only in Italy under the title Vampire, which is just before they, you know, started their partnership for Dawn of the Dead, which Argento was heavily involved with as well. So
sure, yeah, that I knew. So, I didn't know the Martin thing though. That must have been on like BBC News, and it just never made it anywhere else.
I know the original Arrow release of Martin, which was I think it's still to this day the only proper like DVD release of Martin, because of all the rights issues and the producer that owns the rights. It came with the Argento cut on it, which I've seen. So I think that's why I know about it, because you can only get that in the UK. So, but yeah, that was my good.
All
What's
right.
your bad, Bo?
My bad. All right. So this isn't really bad, but I want to talk about it because it's something that we briefly discussed. My bad, again, this is bad with an asterisk. This is actually a good movie, but last night I watched Come True.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved everything about that movie except for the last like 40 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like,
No.
oh fuck, that's not where I wanted this to land.
I love
And
the ending. The ending reminded me of Possessor.
yeah, but I can't really complain about the movie properly without spoiling it, and I don't want to do that because I just have a problem with a movie that's like, oh, you can discount large portions of this movie.
Yeah.
And but that being said, like that was the real like sinking feeling I had at the end of it. And but it didn't totally ruin the movie for me. I think the ending kind of sucks, but like if John Carpenter, David Cronenberg, and Nicholas Winding Refn had a crazy baby, it would kind of become true.
Yeah.
And I really like I was messaging Duncan
you were messaging
as I was
me
watching the movie,
like,
this fucking movie is amazing. And I loved it up until the ending, which kind of dragged it down a little bit for me. Because while I was messaging you, I was like, and you were like, this could be top 3 for me. And I'm like, I'm kind of in the same boat. And then I hit the ending. I was like, oh, well, okay, this is not top 3.
It's still top 3 for me. I think I really liked the ending. But I don't mind movies that dabble in. Without spoiling things, I don't mind movies that dabble in an idea of you thought you were watching one thing, but actually it meant something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't mind that. But at the same time, I can totally see if you were invested in one part of the story and then at the end it's like that, well, that's not the bit that was interesting. It was this bit. You were like, well, no, that's not right. It was this bit that was interesting. No, the bit that was interesting was the interesting bit.
Yeah.
Now that's the bit that you're telling me is not. I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, you're telling me that's all bullshit. And, And
I get that. I do get that.
But there were moments where I was like, this feels like a weird riff on Prince of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
There were some heavy vibes of that. There's that great, I almost said dream sequence, but we'll see. But there's that great moment where like the girl is seeing the dream of the guy. And there's the great score happening behind it. And it was like, man, this movie just rocks. And I still feel that much of, and like I presume a lot of it was model work of the dream sequence stuff.
I have no idea. It's incredible though.
Yeah, there are some moments where you are watching, and that to kind of set it up, the premise of the movie is that this young woman is having these terrible dreams, and then you're kind of led into a sleep study where they are basically recording people's dreams.
A sleep study if it was the people in scanners.
Right, yeah, like or the Institute from those early Cronenberg shorts or something.
Yeah, because none of the technology makes sense, and it all looks, it's like Lynch technology where you're looking at it going like that. No, what dials and twisty things? No, this is modern time. What we're doing here?
Yeah,
it's kind of awesome.
Right. Is it David Mitchell Green? Is that the guy who did It Follows?
Yes,
and there are elements of that where there's a timelessness to some of that tech. It has so many great qualities. I think it's a terrific movie. I'm not crazy about the ending. I do think it's a little bit of a cheat, but there are so many other things about the movie that recommend it that I can still kind of full-throatedly say, if you haven't seen Come True, you should watch Come True, because you may not have the same problem I have with the ending of it. And if you don't, it's going to be one of the best movies you saw this year. If you do, it's going to be like, well, it's one of the best movies I saw this year up until the last minute. But there's just such like cool shit happening visually, like the way that they represent kind of dreamscapes as you're kind of perpetually moving upstairs or through hallways or whatever, but you're constantly in motion in these dreams. All of that stuff I thought was really, really interesting. And it's got some creepy imagery, slight spoilers, but it's really cool. One of the ideas of the movie is that when you get down to the core of things, we all see the same sort of thing at the depths of our nightmares.
Yeah.
And that part of it of like, oh, there is this common fear that we all have, and is it a real thing? Like, all of that stuff I found fascinating, and that's why I wasn't as crazy about the ending, but I loved all of that stuff. It was really, really interesting. And here in the States, it's free on Hulu. So if you happen to be a subscriber to Hulu, you should check out Come True. And even if you're not, it's worth the rental to check that movie out, because it's certainly one of the more interesting movies I've seen this year, and had a lot going for it. I just, like I said, ending kind of but it's
well, let me talk about a movie that you talked about months ago, which was on my need to get around to watch for the end of year list. Blood Red Sky, or as I like to call it, what a long movie.
Yeah, that's not great.
So long. It was like, end.
Although conversely, I think the very end of that movie is really cool.
Yeah, but it just takes so long to get to it.
The whole movie feels like it like all of it needs to be tightened up.
Yeah, to me it felt like a kind of a 40-minute like Twilight Zone short. You know what I mean? It could be all done in that. Very, very, very easy, very erudite. But then you get to this, and it's just bloated. And this, to me, is the negative side of Netflix. Like we mentioned,
the dark
before,
side of Netflix.
Yeah, the dark side of Netflix is that a positive that we've mentioned about certain directors, like a Mike Flanagan, for example, is Mike Flanagan wants to do 10 hours on Stephen King. Netflix is going to give him 10 hours to do in Stephen King. These guys want to do like surprisingly long movie about vampires on an airplane, and guess what? They get the time. And studios would have this tighter. Like, if this was released by a proper studio, this would be a tighter movie. But because it's on a streaming service, and they know, like, people might check out, check in, they can hit pause, go away and do something or whatever. As a result of that, it just plays different. And I just felt lethargic watching it. And there's some cool imagery. I mean, some of the effects are pretty cool. I like the premise of the story. And like you see, it concludes in a way which was like, that's kind of cool. But the journey to get there was just so long.
Yeah, that movie is 2 hours and 1 minute long, and it needs to be 91 minutes.
Yeah, no more than 91 minutes. Like 91 minutes, and we should still be saying they could have probably chopped 5 out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just incredible. But this is the negative side of like the kind of streaming. The streaming option for filmmakers is like Netflix doesn't really butt its nose in. So as a result, films can be longer, and you get essentially directors. There's a reason why certain directors' cuts of movies are not worth watching. And this is kind of it. When a good studio and a good editor's there, you get your tighter output. So it's not going to make my top list this year. It's not going to make the bottom list either, but it was just, and you'd already warned me in advance, so I kind of knew what I was getting when I went into it. But like I say, every now and again, I don't want to live in a world where Bo Ransdell is right. This time you were, though. Cheers.
Yeah. It happens more than you think.
Smug fuck. Look at him just shrugging his shoulders, huh? That guy.
It's,
This guy, what?
I'm a scamp. But all the things you said, I agree with all that. It should have been, like, if that movie were 90 minutes long, because it's got a pretty good villain, it's got a pretty good premise, the visuals are cool, but if you had just tightened up all that shit, it would have been so much more fun.
Like I say, I don't understand. Yeah, I just don't understand where that becomes like, you watch a movie like From Dusk Till Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn is under an hour and 50, and it's essentially 3 movies.
Right. Yeah. And
you know what I mean? This is one movie, and it's 2 hours long. Which is just nuts.
This movie is longer than Star Wars.
Yes.
And that movie built an entire universe and launched a cinematic empire, and this movie can't get that together.
Well, yeah, it's like that great. It's the great quote from. I'm trying to think. It's from Mark Kermode, where he says, whenever he's critiquing a long movie as a negative, he always goes back to 2001: A Space Odyssey, where he's like that, and in 1 hour and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2001: A Space Odyssey takes you from the dawn of man to the dawn of a brand new existence. So if any movie's longer than 2 hours and 20 minutes and it's all about one thing, it's too long. So
Alan points out 2021 is the year of vampires in places you don't expect to find them.
Yeah.
And
blenders, carpools. Although there should be a carpool vampire movie, I would watch that.
Islands.
Islands, yes. No, they're always in coffins. That was a bad example.
The Bronx.
There was that vampire in the Bronx, but what I did not watch.
I didn't see that either. I heard it was okay.
But
what was the one with like dark teeth or whatever? The one with Megan Fox, night teeth.
She's sold as being in that movie. She's in that movie less than 2 minutes.
Oh, it's like Linda Blair in Savage Island.
She's in it for 2 minutes, and that movie is like a big ball of nonsense. So yeah, you're right. That's another Netflix special. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard to complain about Netflix because they brought us Midnight Mass this year, and Midnight Mass was fucking amazing.
I've still to watch it.
Oh, it's so good.
You know what I'm like? I'll be next year and I'll eventually get into it. I'll be like, Bo, you know what was really good?
you know what?
Like, I told you, you son of a bitch.
You know what the kids really ought to watch is Midnight Mass. It's
like he'll have at least another project out by the time I get around to watching that.
Yeah. I mean, he's gonna have a House of Usher is what he's doing.
Yeah, next. And the casting for that looks incredible. And I would love to see him do some Poe. I think he'd be great at it.
And he said that this is sort of like a greatest hits of Poe. It's not just strictly House of Usher, that he's incorporating a lot of that, Poe. Man. Right. It's like Mike Flanagan, you just did the best piece of horror filmmaking I have seen this year. Mm-hmm. By all means, do whatever the fuck you want with Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not going to twist your arm about it too much, but like the only person you're hurting by not watching Midnight Mass is yourself.
I'll get to. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I put out over 220 hours of podcasting this year, only on Podcasts Under the Stairs. That's not including Duncan and Bo or the Metal Epidemic or Opera Omnia or Doing the Nasty or Chronicle or Where to Begin With. That's not including any of that shit.
I saw Night Teeth. But I did not see Midnight Mass, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, I saw Night Teeth because it was in my 31 of October.
All right.
Not because I actively chose to watch. And Midnight Mass is how many hours?
7.
Oh, right. I thought it was longer than that. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay, I've watched it. Listen, if we weren't watching Slasher, right? I would have had it fucking watched by now.
Blame me. Fine. Whatever gets you through the night, Duncan.
These last two episodes, I would much rather have been watching Midnight Mass.
Yeah, well, so would I. I've watched Midnight Mass like 1.5 times now. It's so good. Anyway, speaking of the reason that good things can't happen to us.
It'll all be, listen, by April, we will be finished.
Yeah, we will have seen, this is one of those things. Like, if I end up on one of them COVID ventilators, I'm going to be thinking, I saw all of Slasher, and what the hell did I do with my time?
Oh, man. It's been like the worst roller coaster.
Right. It's like if a roller coaster only had the mildest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of up, and then the dip is 10 feet.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about I remember our complaints about like episode 2 of season 1. They now feel so trivial compared to what I just sat through.
Yeah.
They kind of feel like we were nitpicking a bit too much, and then you get to this and you're like, oh no, this is objectively terrible. Whereas before, It was like, well,
Right. The first season felt like Aaron Martin really did have something to say, and this is just him continuing to spin his wheels.
One of our biggest gripes in season 1 was the terrible fake accent, which now feels like a non-event by the time you get to here.
Oh, what I wouldn't give for a bad accent, Duncan.
To be sure. You know what I mean? It's just like when we get to this, it's just like, what am I going to be doing? So we're going to roll for you guys the final 2 episodes of Slasher.
And we're going to do this fast because we have exactly 90 minutes.
Which is about the length of both episodes put together, so we can do this.
But also, we tend to go longer than the episodes. But anyway, all right, so the first episode, this will cover midnight to 3 a.m. is the first episode we're going to talk about. And it starts with Connor and Shadia back at her place.
Yeah.
Just talking about the party and Shadia being like, I was expecting that party to be a lot more drugs and fucking, and it didn't seem like that. And I was like, I know. Like, we've been talking about this party for the whole show.
Last year, that's all the flashbacks that we've seen has just been drugs and fucking.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, it'll get crazier later. I mean, we're not going to go back there or anything, so don't even worry about it on this show.
Yeah, it gets so crazy. Like, wait till the moment where people just start eating each other.
Yeah,
I mean, it does happen. We're not going to show you it though. I think even the police officer at one point says, "You guys going back to the party?" And I was like, "Oh, what, the illegal party that the police are supposed to be closing down?"
It is nuts that so much of this show has revolved around this party that we saw for 10 minutes for one episode and then just never see again.
You think of the production on that? Someone set a car on fire. And we were there 10 minutes and then never again. It's the greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's making you think
the party was. Yeah, it was making you think that the party was like a plot point. It's not.
What if you try to kill the solstice party and you miss?
Yeah. And just like that, it was gone. So
solstice party, solstice party, says the burn guy in the hospital.
Oh man, you super cut of that.
So anyway, the whole point of this is her being like, hey, I really like you in my apartment, Connor. Maybe we should do the mildest of making out. And he's like, I'm totally down for that.
But no, they're not allowed to, because chap at the door. It's the popo. It's the 5-0.
Yeah, it's the detective and the junior detective who are canvassing the building.
Yeah.
And she's just there to remind us that, like, hey, we think there might be 2 killers. And, the guy we caught and somebody else. Wink, wink.
Well, she asked him, have you seen this boy? It's like, oh, it's John Connor. No, she's like, have you seen this guy? And Sally's like, no, never seen him before. And then Connor's like, yeah, everywhere. I mean, he was at the coffee shop, and he was at the school, and he was at. And I was like, oh, let's just not pretend he's not the fucking killer. Yeah, at the school, and he stared at my sister sometimes, and it was kind of weird. And and
he always had a knife and a mask.
Like a knife, like had a backpack with a druid mask in it. Like, you say that I'm going to kill you kids and everyone in your building.
Just wait till next year. I'm going to murder you all.
Yeah, I'm sure he had he had a tattoo that said, I'm the killer.
Right. He wrote that book called If I Did It.
Yeah. But basically, he gives a massive exposition dump, and we're like, once again, if you live in a world where you don't think Connor's a killer, I can't see how at this point you'd be like that. Well, that seems a bit strange, because the show's not showing any of this. So,
and we get a flashback on the heels of that where the detective is just getting shit a year ago about investigating death threats.
This is her episode.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and
this is all the flashbacks involve her and Connor shouting at her, tell her how shitty a detective is. So the culmination of this episode makes sense? ?
Yeah, and so after he's like, oh yeah, I saw him talking to Noah and Emma Notberts, and and the detective seems to be kind of convinced that like, oh, we got the right guy. And after she takes off, Connor tells Shadia like, she was nowhere when Kit died and when my mom set herself on fire. But as soon as a white girl and a white teacher go missing, they spring into action. And Shadia is like, I mean, you're not wrong, but, also you seem really intense right now. And he's like, I'm going to go get a shower. I'll catch up with you later, Shadia. And so he takes off to clean, one presumes, his soul.
Yeah, also, like, it's worth mentioning at this point, like, Sadia has passed out as well at one point.
Yeah. She fell asleep for a minute and then wakes up.
She fell asleep, or
maybe, I'd have to go back.
I think the best bit of this whole season is crazy Rennie.
Yeah.
Like, she's fucking, like, she's the best. Like, when she's like, people at the doors going, they're tracking me. Closing the door again.
Yeah, I'm crazy and all, but they're fucking with me.
She's like, I pour my tea in the sink and they don't know. Shh.
Wink, wink. And yeah, we'll get to that. You're right. That is the best part of any of these episodes is Crazy Renee. But back to the pit where the asshole with two heads, Sheriff Dan and Angel, are screaming and pulling each other's faces apart.
Yeah, believe it or not, like, Angel comes off worse than this.
Yeah, the way I put it was the Sheriff Dan gets the wishbone, you know? Where his face is largely intact. It just has some extra face. And and poor Angel gets part of his face ripped off. But, I don't know. I'm no scientician, Duncan. I think we've established in the past that my medical training is largely based on movies and some stuff I made up.
I believe that we used a blanket term of suspect.
Yes. So, but I do think that, like, Angel being this fucked up by this face trauma that he has suffered.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Because he is just, like, in shock and useless for most of the rest of the episode.
But, like, we will get to it in the next episode where he, like, apparently just gives up and dies after an event, which is traumatizing but would not kill you.
Yeah. Well, all right. So this is where Sheriff Dan starts to make his turn. After he pulls off part of Angel's face.
Yeah, after he mutilates the gay man, he kind of feels a bit, like, sorry for some of the stuff that he's done. And even at one point, jokes with Angel about, I can't wait to get you to the bar. Imagine what the guys will say. Because that's what happens when two men walk into a bar. Everyone turns around and goes, they're fucking. I mean, it's just so fucking...
Well, he's right. And he's trying to, like, provide comfort.
Yeah.
But mostly he's just like, we got to find a way out of here, goddammit. I mean, I got to get this other half a face off my face. Otherwise, people won't know who I am, goddammit. Everybody.
He's fucking Hannibal Lecter's a bit of the face off the side of his leg. Yeah. Thank you, Officer Pembury.
Yeah, that's Pembury, goddammit.
Goddammit.
So...
But he's searching around the wall. He finds a nail.
Yeah. And he says he went to some getaway, some camp for survivalists, aka white nationalists.
Yeah, like 100% an indoctrination camp.
Yeah, so. Right. That right after he Googled why is it hard to be white. He got a flyer to this camp. They were like, you know what? If you're Googling these terms, you're going to love this camp.
Yeah, you're going to love the Proud Boys. Welcome.
Yeah.
Here's your badge.
We don't call ourselves Proud Boys anymore. It's just boys who feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
But
we wanted to call ourselves Boys to Men, but there's already something there that's a bit charged for us to use that, so we didn't do it.
Yeah, also we don't appreciate the way that they don't spell out two. It's just the numerals, the Roman numerals.
It's not cool. It's not cool.
Even though we agree, it is so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. That's really the white nationalist motto is like, what about back then? When there was less the mud people, you know?
Yeah, less other people that weren't me.
Yeah, right. And things were just they were whiter back then. You know,
Yes.
just a general whiteness about
Yeah, it's
things.
interesting. It's interesting we say that, and yet there was loads of world wars. Loads and loads of world wars. It's interesting that those world wars have kind of stopped whilst there has been mass migration. It's almost as if we accept people from different places and don't necessarily want to kill them all.
Yeah.
Interesting how that happens. I don't know. Just a thought.
Alan refers to them as happy young lads, also known as young fresh fellows.
Yes.
Anyway.
Started by a Canadian, but I don't want to do shots fired, but
you know,
Gavin McInnes is a Canadian, so
credit where it's due.
Credit where it's
due. So Sheriff Dan is like, hey, I'm gonna file down this nail, goddammit, and we're gonna get ourselves out of here because I'm gonna pick a lock. And Angel's like, whatever, man, half my face is on yours, and I am largely checked out of all of this.
Yes, I am so useless in the scene that what I'm going to do is feign falling asleep and coming to every other moment to stop you doing the thing that you want to do to prolong us being in this room.
Yeah, there's a cutaway at one point where the junior detective is just checking around on the second floor and starts smelling something.
He starts smelling the floor. He starts like touching the floor and smell. We find out what this is later on. It's essentially bleach.
Yeah. But he's kind of banging on some doors and sees like a suspicious looking stain and that kind of thing. And no
one's answering because everyone has been murdered.
The whole second floor is either fucking dead or glued together in the basement. And speaking of, we get a moment down there with Angel and Sheriff Dan where Sheriff Dan is like, how come you always walk around so angry, goddammit? I mean, I know why I'm mad. And it's because of all you people. But why are you angry? Are you mad at white people? And he's like, no, I kind of expect better of the people around me and the world and myself. Like I'm just constantly dissatisfied because the world isn't what I think it ought to be.
Yeah.
And Sheriff Dan is like, well, wait a second, goddammit.
Yeah, that's
me too. Why, maybe we're not so different after all. You gay son of a bitch.
Freaking pole smoking motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's literally those moments where I'm like, and part of me's like the eyes rolling there. I'm like, maybe this is as good as Aaron Martin is ever going to get at trying to address the commonalities in us all.
Oh, for sure. And this is the point where they talk about like, well, when we get out of here, we're going to go to the bar. And they're having a big laugh about all of this. And we kind of float up with the laughter through the vent up to Shadia's apartment where she is having a nightmare and wakes up and thinks she sees the druid in her place. But surprise, surprise.
She wakes up and she's like, no. She starts like throwing her pillow at like a bundle of jackets.
Yeah, right. It's just like a shawl and her hijab like on a microphone stand or something, and she's just like it's one of the most needless scares of slasher history where you're like, well, this doesn't foreshadow anything, it doesn't it's just
pay off anything, it's not even scary, so why is it here?
Yeah, it's terrible. And so, meanwhile, Jen, aka Killer Number 2, finds Connor, aka Killer Number 1.
By the way, like, not only were we right, we were fucking super right. So, like, credit where credit's due. We were, like, all three of these seasons, we've been on fucking fire. Early on, early doors, all 3 seasons. So, like, Aaron Martin ain't got shit on us.
Right. In theory, we could be writing this, although it would be better because it would be distinctly stupider. But yeah, so I
don't think, I love the idea of the casting notes where it's like that character to be played by Wilford Brimley or Wilford Brimley adjacent. They're like, well, he's dead. And we're like, well, Wilford Brimley adjacent then. Find someone that looks like him and sounds like him. Like,
right.
Bolo voice him then. God damn it.
Right, you like we can do Peter Cushing in that Star Wars movie, but we can't bring Wilford Brimley back digitally to star in Slasher.
A Disney hologram Wilford Brimley.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just like they do.
We mustache twitches and stuff.
Yeah. Just like Henry Cavill in Man of Steel or whatever, or the Batman v Superman movie. Right.
There's that thing that goes. There's that thing that goes around like constantly about like Wilford Brimley and Paul Rudd are the same age right now that Wilford Brimley was when he was in Cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at the two and I'm like, one of them definitely served in Korea, and the other one was Paul Rudd.
Right, one of them was swimming around in that Cocoon pool. Paul Rudd's motto is "Never grow old, never gonna die."
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Like Brimley just looked that age forever.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like when he was in The Firm and stuff, he looked like he was 70 years old and he was like mid-50s.
And you're like, this is the guy you've hired to be your chief enforcer to chase people down. Look at him.
Well, but also, what if you saw a Brimley coming at you full
I'd
speed?
shit my pants. I'd shit my pants.
Yeah, you would.
100%.
You would evacuate your bowels and then he'd be able to track you by the scent alone.
Yeah, he's absolutely terrifying. He's absolutely terrifying. Like Brimley, like what they should do is when they're like interrogating any murder suspect, Brimley should just sit in the corner quietly and twitch his mustache.
Yeah, or
instant confession.
Right, it's like the the old Chuck Norris joke about like Chuck Norris doesn't read; he just stares at a book until it gives him the information he wants. That's you can substitute that for Brimley. But yeah, so while we're in this bathroom scene with killer number 1 and killer number 2, Jen is like, "Hey, where is Shadia?" And he's like, "Oh, I left her back in the apartment." And she's like, "You dumb shit. I told you not to leave her alone." And in fairness,
you can't leave her alone. There's a killer out there, Bo.
Well, right. But I was also like, well, what does it matter? You two aren't going to kill her because the whole idea is that she is the one person they like.
This is where it just is bullshit because they are like it's like the whole Ren thing previous season. Like they are still so committed to, oh well, you know, they're not the killers because look, they're concerned for their friend.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Also, quick check in with chat. DJ Rowden saying that Angel and Sheriff Dan should get an Odd Couple slasher spinoff. 100% agree.
I would 100% watch it.
And Alan saying that Wilford Brimley should play all of the characters in the next season. I would love to see Wilford Brimley.
He left us too soon, even though he was 89 or something.
Whatever. Like yes, there should be statues of him in every city. Okay, but anyway, so back to a flashback for no good reason. We go back to Mark Stroganoff's apartment.
Right, well, what we're going to get now, and I've got to stress this, all the flashbacks, out with the cop flashbacks, you're going to get all the flashbacks now are to basically show you why everyone died.
Yeah, oh God. And there's in the last episode, there was a real, like,
they cover it again. They do it again.
Like,
just to make sure that you didn't get in the previous episode, in case you didn't get it. Here you get it. And there is a terrible reason because in this episode they're showing you all Connor's interactions, and then in the next episode you're seeing all Jen's interactions, which turns out are kind of the same interactions.
Yeah. So, but Mark Stroganoff is being distinctly unsympathetic to the fact that Jen and Connor's mother set herself on fire.
He was fine. He was sitting there. He was watching his programs. He was okay. And then his wife come across and asked for sympathy for Jen and Connor. And he doesn't know who Jen and Connor is, although it turns out he does know who Jen and Connor is because they live next door to him, which causes him to start fucking banging the wall. Mm-hmm. Your mother's a psycho that set herself on fire. God damn it. Like all this stuff. And then he hits his wife because remember, we knew that he was a wife beater. And then Connor knocks the door and Stroganoff opens the door.
Yeah.
And he's not happy, Bill.
No, he's given Connor a bunch of shit, and Connor is like, yeah, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to your wife. And gives her like, do you need me to call somebody? because, you know, we can all hear this and you don't have to put up with this shit. And she is like, you are not helping. As soon as you close the door, this character is going to bounce me around a little bit more on account of you interfering, which is not great, obviously, but also kind of stay the fuck out of it, man. You know, like, it's like, if you want to help, you call the cops anonymously.
Yes.
And don't tell the woman who is in the gravest of danger, hey, we can make this better for everybody. Like, you need to shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. All you have to do is just leave them. Because it's that easy, Bo. I don't know. For all the people out there suffering domestic abuse, it's that easy, according to Slasher, and people that are not educated. It's okay just to leave. Just leave, Bo. Simple as that.
Right. And she very wisely says, you're not helping anything. Get the fuck out of here. And so he does.
GTFO.
Yes. And then we get to some quality Crazy Renee, where the detective finds her scrawling runes on the walls like she is, you know, trying to summon a Viking spirit.
It's literally like she was doing that, and all I could hear is that, have you seen the trailer for The Northman yet?
I haven't. I've been kind of like waiting. Look, dude, I'm gonna see it as soon as it's available. Don't even kid yourself. I'm just like, you don't have to sell me on this.
You just need to see the trailer, though. You just need to watch it. The trailer is not going to spoil anything. It's not going to spoil anything for you except make you the horniest you've ever been for a movie. Like, I shit you not. But literally, that's all that went through my head. There's this recurring phrase that the Skarsgård character keeps saying about, you know, it's like avenge my father, rescue my mother, kill my uncle. And he keeps repeating this thing. And then I see fucking Rennie carving these runes, and all that was going through my head was like, avenge my father, rescue my mother, kill all these fucking runes and shit. I was just like, yeah, that's exactly what that is.
There was a very funny bit I saw with Robert Eggers where he was saying, when he was showing this movie off, people were like, oh my God, this is like The Lion King, but Vikings. And he was like, it's fucking Hamlet, you illiterate sons of bitches. Yeah. That's what The Lion King was.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's a whole generation that's grown up with just The Lion King. So
I mean, I suppose so, but that's why the world is falling a fucking apart.
Yeah, well, it's like there was an article I saw with that Robert Eggers is bringing what's that it said? Bringing big budget action with an art house aesthetic. I was like, this is his first action movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's not his modus operandi. This is his first action movie.
Well,
like, from now on, I will be the man that brings action to the art house crowd. Like, for fuck's sake, just
after the action of The Lighthouse.
Yes.
All the
hey, there's a lot of action in that, Bo.
Yeah, there's a lot of lamp oil drinking. Which is maybe my favorite part of The Lighthouse, is when they run out of booze and just start drinking lamp oil.
I literally this week I watched as my Christmas movie. I watched Conan the Barbarian, which I do once a year. Always about this time of the year. I love that fucking movie.
Sure, it's great.
Love that movie. And then all I could think of was The Northman, because once again, Hammer.
Also, happy holidays to Lori, who is dropping by the chat to say happy holidays. So
happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. That's our official Duncan and Bo holiday song.
It is. It's great. Buy it now.
Anyway, yeah, find it on Spotify. So after the detective runs across Crazy Renee carving runes on the doorways, she's like, hey, here's a picture of Wyatt, this guy we caught. Have you seen this guy? And Renee is like, oh, so you don't think he's really the killer? Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And she's like, well, I mean,
stuff.
Aren't you crazy?
Yeah, you're not supposed to be out here. Let me take you home.
Yeah. And so we cut from them to the junior detective who's still milling around on the second floor.
Sniffing floors for some reason.
And then the druid just opens up one of the doors, drags him
This
inside.
is a great kill. This is a great kill.
Yeah.
This is my favorite kill of the entire season. This is fucking great. But this might be my favorite slasher kill, full stop.
I don't disagree with that. Because it is really quality. Because they're scuffling. And Junior Detective, by the way, weighs like $105.
Yeah.
And
it's maybe one of the most pointless characters in slasher ever, though.
For sure. He brings
What is he added except now dying in the best death scene?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. He does maybe providing some kind of sounding board for the detective to get some exposition out.
But what's her arc? Like, we're going to get to her by the end of this episode. What is her arc?
I'm on to the fact that maybe the killer isn't just this one guy. Oh, it turns out I was right, and now I'm dead.
Yeah, that's literally her arc.
Yeah.
It's I'm dead, but I'm dead.
So anyway, the druid ends up they're kind of scuffling in this kitchen. The blender gets turned on, but the blender, the carafe or whatever, is removed. So it's just blender blades spinning, and the druid just slams the junior detective's face down on the spinning blender.
Yeah,
and then really.
You get an aerial shot above it, and then you just see a torrent, like a twister of blood that just spins right out across the white background. That's fucking great, man. It's absolutely great. And then the killer pulls him back and throws him off, and they don't show you his face. And I was like, that's such a fucking cop out. And then we get to see the face later on, and the effect is fucking great.
Yeah, it's really good. Because again, it's just the middle of his face chewed up. It's really quite good.
Slasher does really, really well.
The one
effortlessly
thing.
well. Yeah, it's the only thing it does well is the deaths. Great. It gives you that. Which, like I've said before, if it's paying homage to 80s slashers, then it does it really well, because at the end, the only thing people talk about 80s slashers are how the killer looked in the deaths.
Yeah. You're right.
So maybe Aaron Martin is a genius after all. Oh, I didn't say that, Bo. I didn't say that. I'm sorry. I didn't say that. I'm being attacked by this pom-pom. Ah!
DJ Rowden saying it's the best blender-related death since Your Next.
Your Next is great, and I'm trying to think of the other one. There's another one as well. There's another movie that I can't remember that has a similar thing. But yeah, this one's like, it's just the effect. It's done really, really well. And it comes, like Bo was saying, it comes out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. I hate the fact that it comes out of nowhere because it doesn't lead to anything or make any sense, but it's still a cool visual.
Yeah. All right. So to catch up with what's going on elsewhere down in the pit, Sheriff Dan has broken the nail off in the lock. Oh, God damn it. Right. And then we cut to the detective who's questioning Jen and asking her about Wyatt. And there's a real clue here where she gives an almost verbatim response to Connor.
Oh, God. He hung around the school and the coffee shop, and he used to stare at girls.
Yeah, and Connor kind of overhears this and interrupts, and then just gives the detective shit about, like, you've had a year to catch this killer and you never did, and all you're doing right now is just upsetting our crazy stepmom Renee. And she's like, all right, I'll go. Sorry for doing detective work.
Yeah, I'm sorry for being a diligent detective. I will now leave you all alone.
And so our killers put Renee to bed and kind of have an argument, again, if you did not think they were the killers yet, about like, hey, you don't need to draw any more attention from this detective than need be. Don't give her a bunch of bullshit to make her focus on you. Just give her the information, let it go.
Keep your shit tight, Bo.
Yeah.
Which is a phrase between each other, which I don't know what that means.
Keep it loose, keep it tight, said Amos Lee. And so then where we get the shot of the junior detective's face is when the detective radios him. Mm-hmm. And she's out front, and the Stroganoff family, minus Mark, who died.
Yeah, getting the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah. And she's like, where you guys going? And the Stroganoff wife is like, we're getting away from all these assholes who live here in this apartment. Everybody in this building's a piece of shit. My husband's dead.
Yeah.
And no, I don't know who that picture is. Yeah. So,
do you think he's involved with the carjacking thing that he was in? Oh no, well that's even more reason for me to get away.
Right. Also, nobody's been by here. Like we're getting out, and I don't really know what this scene is about, other than the detective being like, "Hey, I'm gonna call somebody to bring me some luminol." So
but it's also to get everyone else out of the apartment, essentially, because that's what you've got here. Like this is them now cleaning shop. They were really the only other people accounted for in the apartment who will not die, if you know what I mean. So this is them.
I guess
let's get rid of them, and it's a weird detail to focus on because we haven't seen them since like episode 2.
Yeah. Right. It was just like, I don't. Why bother?
Why?
Anyway, so Shadia then shows up at Jen and Connor's place, and there's a whole discussion of jams that we don't need to get into. Connor is asleep. And Jen and Shadia are kind of chatting about how she might be into Connor, Connor might be into him. Shadia is asking like, oh, what is kissing like? And it shows, I think, a lot of restraint on the part of Slasher that we did not have these two girls kiss.
You thought you were going to get a Cruel Intentions moment.
Kinda, because I've seen this show before and I know it has no morality or
like what does kissing feel like? Well, let me show you with my finger in your vagina. Like only Slasher can do.
Right, like, ladies and gentlemen, special guest Sarah Michelle Gellar. I'll show you what kissing's like. She says. That's a pretty good Sarah Michelle Gellar, by the way.
It was excellent.
Yeah, a lot of people call me and are like, hey, just give me a little SMG. Anyway, then we get a flashback from 10 months ago where the detective is issuing warnings around the building about how everyone has been terrible to Justine, the mom who set herself on fire.
Yeah.
And Renee complained specifically about Sheriff Dan.
Yeah.
And
which, to be honest, if I lived in that floor, he'd be my primary concern on everything.
Right.
Because he's a dick.
For sure. But like Renee starts to have this breakdown where she's just like, I love my dead gay wife. And that's kind of the end of the scene. It's just
it's literally the depth of it. It's got all the depth of a teaspoon of water.
Yeah. And so then we get the detective starting to use luminol to find blood.
She goes
splatter.
mad with the luminol. She's like, lights off.
Yes.
And the thing is, like, after you've done it the first time, you found all that blood splatter that she finds. I'd be like, that murder scene. No. She's going to luminol the entire building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just to make sure.
She's giving it the real luminol white glove treatment.
Like every fucking room. She even does it down in the basement, which is my favorite bit, when she actually walks into the basement. She's still spraying all over them like that. Right. Clearly, this is where people have been murdered. I can tell that just from looking.
Body parts laying on the table, and she's like, shh. All right, I think something may have happened here.
We missed an opportunity, and I think this show is. I'm going to just put this. I'm just going to put it right now. The show has come down in my estimation because we never got the coroner back in after our 5th costume dress, and she was the high watermark of this season. But
I mean, other than Crazy Renee, and Sheriff Dan being terrible,
yes,
yeah, you're right. Like, and she just disappears. Great. Yeah,
she disappears. Like, she's just not in it anymore. We don't need her.
So, Sheriff Dan does manage to get the lock open and starts prying open the door. We'll cut back to him in a minute. I mean, all of this is just incredibly drawn out.
It's we have one episode worth of story, but we will make it 2 episodes.
Right. Which I'm kind of glad we're doing both of these together because it really is.
It made sense actually in hindsight. Like, to do them separately would have been frustrating. So
So then Renee finds Shadia and Jen kind of chit-chatting. This is maybe the best episode of our best moment of this episode, other than the blender in the face. And Jen is like, I'm going to go get some of Renee's pills. And then Renee gets real close, like gets all up on Shadia and is like, I'm sorry, I've been acting crazy. They've been drugging my tea, so I stopped drinking it and pour it down the sink. And Shadia is like, okay. And she's like, guess what? No one's going to stop me from what I've got planned. Shh, don't tell anybody. And then she kind of like gets back in her chair when Jen comes back in the room.
It's like when you watch Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Billy's granddad sits down and goes, Santa's going to fucking kill you. Yeah. And then everyone comes back in the room and he's like,
nothing? Yeah. And when Jen comes back in, Renee is like, well, I'm off to bed. And so she takes off, and Jen is like, you look a little freaked out. What did Renee say? And Shadia confesses to her because, you know, it's her best friend. She's like, she told me that she's being drugged. And Jen's like, yeah, of course we are. Have you seen how fucking crazy she is? Like, her doctors told us to drug her, and so we do.
Jen is actually fucking awesome as a villain in this show because like every time she's caught out, she has an answer for something that feels rational, and Connor doesn't. Like it's clearly she's the brain of the operation, Connor's the brawn, but she's like every time. I love this all the way through this. Every time she gets caught in something where we're like, well, this is clearly a bad thing, she's like, yeah, but think about this, and we're like, oh yeah, well actually that does that totally makes sense. So,
all right, so we get a quick flashback to the night where Justine sets herself on fire, and we see Renee totally losing her shit as if to say, yeah, this is why she's being drugged.
Yeah.
And then we flashback from that flashback to 9 months ago, and Jen, right, where Jen finds Connor on the edge of the building on the roof.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't take this anymore. And this is where there's the talk of like, we got to keep it tight. Like, we're in this together, you and me. If you jump, then I'm going to jump right after you. And you're a fighter. You know, all of this is you know, we've got to be a team in whatever we do. And it's just saying like, oh, by the way, we're going to kill everybody. And so then we cut back to the detective who is once more following this luminol trail. Just and you know, she walks like 3 feet. And she follows this all the way to the elevator, and she's still like the whole time she's like, hey, junior detective, come in. I think I found a trail of blood. I'm going to assume that you're taking a shit right now, and that's why you're not answering. And I'm going to in no way call in backup because apparently we're the only 2 police officers in this whole city.
And the whole
like, this is
if you're on the toilet, just acknowledge me by telling me it's a code brown. Like, let me know. Let me know what's happening here.
Hey, if you're gonna help me with all this luminol tracking, don't say anything. That's how I'll know that you want to help. But it's so crazy that she's like, I found a blood trail. My partner isn't answering. Let me get in this elevator and go down into the basement.
Yeah. Also, I suspected from the previous episode that the killer was still at large.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even that we're cleaning up evidence at the end here after the killer's been caught. There's an active serial killer on the go right now, and we're just going to follow this down ourselves. And when our partner doesn't answer us, which feels suspicious because he wouldn't usually do that, we're going to just play along.
Right? It's bananas. Yeah,
stupid, Bob.
So Sheriff Dan gets this door open finally. It takes him a whole fucking episode to pick this lock and open a door, but sure enough, it's finally
I would just say he should get his money back from the Proud Boys camp that he was at.
Oh, for sure. And so he gets the door.
At? You're laughing at something. What are you laughing at?
Somebody in chat was DJ saying that it's scarier than the druid for the toilet at least. And Alan said that would have made the acid toilet scene in episode 1 more intense. They're basically talking about how hummus blows you up, which is very funny to me. Anyway,
oh God, yeah.
hummus and acid, says DJ. Truly a devil's brew. Anyway, well done, guys. So they get this door open, and inside it's the furnace room where it is just fucking mayhem in here. It is like body parts laying on gurneys. There's some bloody hair hanging off of the tables, some more body parts scattered on the floor, and the furnace is going full blast as somebody is clearly burning bodies down here in this room.
Cleaning up, Bo.
Yeah. And Connor, meanwhile, has gone back up to the roof, presumably to jump off for some reason.
This scene doesn't make sense.
Right, but it's like he's like, I just can't take it anymore. Hey, wait a second. I see a flashlight down in the basement. I should abandon my suicidal ideation to go check on this because I don't want my death to reveal that I'm a killer.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
All right, so we cut to the detective continuing to follow this blood trail. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. And then when she finds just this wall of blood splatter.
Yeah, this is when she's like, oh, maybe there's been a crime here.
Right, and she finally pulls her gun, and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess you can't carry a gun and your luminol squirt bottle at the same time. But so she finds that the door is locked, and this is the door to the furnace room, and Sheriff Dan hears her on the other side of the door.
He's like, hello, goddammit.
Yeah. Hey, I need to be rescued, goddammit. I got a face and a half. And
Face off.
Yeah. That's what the Angel's face off. And while she's like, all right, I hear you. I need to track some more luminol evidence before I can let you out, but stand back from the door. But before she can get the door open, out comes the druid, aka Connor, who has spotted her down in the basement, and just grabs an axe and
Patrick Bateman's her.
Yeah, like uses the dull side of the axe to brain her, but before she dies, she pulls the mask off, revealing to us, the audience, it is in fact Connor.
It was Connor all along, Bo.
Yeah, and the detective is like, I didn't do anything, and then Connor's like, I don't care, and bashes her with the blunt side of the axe a few more times, and we get a pretty good look at her caved in face.
Good effect.
Which again, what this show does right is do some gnarly visual effects. DJ always saying, also no one thought to check the creepy furnace room for suspicious activity.
I mean, if you were investigating an apartment building, the first thing you would do is you would look for places bodies could go, i.e. the bins in the furnace.
Roof in the basement is where you look first.
I am now of the opinion that this cop deserved to die, but
I mean, I don't know that you're wrong about this, but so back in the furnace room, Connor is stashing this body while Sheriff Dan just kind of hides in the corner.
Yeah.
And we see Connor start shoveling up some of the bits of the detective that fell out in the hallway and then shoves them into the furnace, which is pretty good. And we get a glimpse that Angel is kind of coming to in the pit. And the last scene of the episode, because the one thing we haven't revealed in this episode is that Jen is also involved. And
yeah, we're holding on to that because I don't know. I always think that like Aaron Martin thinks he's a lot cleverer than he actually is. Because to me it's obvious. Because even if you were revealed Connor as the killer, I'd be sitting thinking, well, there was at least 2 deaths where Connor was on screen when they were happening. That makes sense. You know what I mean? Jen's logically the other person because she has separated as well from them while they're doing things. So,
and also earlier in the episode was like, it's you and me, we're together no matter what crazy shit you get up to. I'm gonna be there.
And I know you're trying to pivot Rennie as potentially a suspect, but no.
And so Connor then just shows up in the apartment where Shadia and Jen are asleep on the couch in that episode to like, oh my goodness, the killer is there with two sleeping ladies.
Yeah.
All right. So then we go to the final episode, the season finale of season 3 from the 3 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Coming in full
episode.
circle, boy.
Yep. And we open on Connor in the bathroom washing bits of brain off of himself.
Like, how did he put things in the furnace? With his head?
Well, I think it was more that when he was braining the detective, like there's just a lot of splatter and blah. That's why it's so hard to clean this shit up.
There is a chunk of her on the back of his head.
All over the place, man. There's some on his neck.
Like
there's
it's
some on the
like,
back of his head.
He pushed the body parts into the furnace the same way that the dog pushes the meatball lady and the tramp across to the other dog. You're like, his fucking nose. What the fuck are we doing here?
They share a bit of intestine and accidentally kiss.
Oh no!
Ooh. And so Shadia walks in on him, kind of dressing, and she's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And they start to kiss, and this is where Shadia like pulls back.
Whoa,
and she's like, "I can't."
Yeah. She's like,
you know,
in my culture, let's not do this right now.
Right, and she's like, this isn't about like me following the rules. This is what I believe, but when I'm ready to kiss someone, I want it to be you because you're in no way a killer.
Yeah, you're wholesome and not a killer, so we can trust you. And he's like, tee hee.
And she like reaches, she's like holding him and
right.
and almost touches the brain that's clinging to the back of his skull, and that's kind of our opening before we get the
slasher.
Yeah. And so then we come back to Sheriff Dan, who is back in the room with Angel, and Sheriff Dan has officially lost his shit. Like, he is not prepared.
He's just seen some Nam-like shit.
Yeah.
Like body parts strewn about the place. He is telling Angel about the horrors of that room, trying to get Angel ready for, this is the worst room you've ever fucking seen. You know, this shit will turn you white. You know what I mean? Like,
and Angel is like, is Joe in there? And he's like, man, anybody could be in there. There's body parts and hair and assholes just all over the place. I have no idea. Is Joe in there? Maybe. Parts of him. And maybe. and Angel's like, all right, well, we got to get out of here. And he's like, yeah, we do. This is fucking terrible. I've never seen anything this bad. I am so sorry for all the white nationalist shit I ever said. Obviously, this is the worst thing that ever happened. But I would argue that the fact that it was people of color that did this would only reinforce his white nationalism.
What was it? Which is why the end of this episode is so fucking problematic. But yeah, like there's a part where like you almost see it in Sheriff Dan's eyes where he's like that. I wish I hadn't been able to pick a lock. Like, I would have just sat here. I would have just sat here in bliss and ignorance. But yeah, he's like steadying them up. They're going to make their grand escape eventually, because we're going to come back and forward a couple of times before that actually happens. But meanwhile,
Shadia and Connor are on his bed kind of holding hands, and this is where they get into the whole discussion about what she believes and that she's not doing it, you know, yada yada. But she also says like, hey, not everybody in this building is bad, and Connor is like, let me just stop you right there, Shadia.
Let me unfurl the scroll of rage.
Right. And he's like, everybody in this building played a role in my mother's death. And then he asks Shadia, like, what's the worst thing that you've ever done? And she's like, I'm not going to tell you that. Like, we haven't even kissed yet. We're just holding hands.
He's like, you weren't involved with this. What's the worst thing you've ever done? And she's about to say something, and she's like, not until the final scene.
Right. Not until this season is almost over will I reveal that. And
revealed the most fucking mind-numbingly tedious nonsense.
And it's not even that bad. Like
no.
It's really not, Bo. So Connor then is like scratching the back of his head and he's like, oh, more brain. Hey, hang on a second. I need to go clean up a little more. And also there's some banging around and he's like, oh, that's Renee. Hey, how about you go check and see what
she's making breakfast at 3 a.m.
Dude, what in the fuck? Like none of the
But
time.
I think they say it's 4 a.m. I
Right.
think that's what he says. Like, this is ready. She gets up at 4 a.m. to make breakfast.
And so
to make sure she doesn't burn the house down.
Yeah, right. And she says she's making breakfast for them before they go to school, even though Jen is already at the table. And she's like, look, we're not going to school like that. We're out of school now. And this is where like Shadia spots this key ring that is like, Bookman from One Day at a Time.
Did we know that he was the super in the building?
Not that I'm aware of.
I literally was racking my brains to think of any time this has been mentioned, and now it's been mentioned in the final episode that he's had keys to all the apartment building all the way through this.
Yes, and
which
also
would make him a suspect in any other fucking thing I've watched, Bo.
As soon as like Shadia is like, what a big ass ring of keys you got, he immediately starts washing them.
Yes,
and it's like, hey, wait a second. Was there blood on those keys? He's like, nope, just cleaning them up. And anyway, then Jen points out like, hey, it's really hot in this apartment right now. What's going on? And this is where Renee is like, oh yeah, all these vents are blasting heat. And Connor's like, oh, well, because I'm the secret superintendent of this building, I'm checking the furnace, and yeah, it's hot now, but you guys are going to thank me in the winter after all these bodies are burned. I mean,
have you read The Shining? I mean,
right.
I don't do this now. This burns down, right? So come on.
Have you read The Shining or seen Dr. Sleep? I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
It's the same thing. Same ending.
So then Angel and Sheriff Dan are escaping into the room of body parts, and this is where Angel does in fact find Joe or pieces of him. In this dumpster that Connor is using to dispose of bodies, and he freaks out a little bit. And then we go back to Jen and Shadia, who are in Jen's room, and she's like, hey, I think I kind of freaked your brother out when I said that I wouldn't kiss him. And Jen's like, no, he's gonna be fine. I mean, he's crazy about other things, not about that. And so she goes to brush her teeth, Shadia does, and then Renee is like, Shadia, come into my room real quick. And I'm like, and
the most disturbing wall I've ever
just this altar of crazy that she has set up that's got like little items from all the tenants, and this thing is
used tampons of our neighbors, Bo.
Used tampons, hair. She's asking Shadia for something from her parents that she can put on here, and like there's hair and blood and all kinds of crazy shit. And Shadia's like, this is the floor plan of the apartment building, and Renee's like, I know, it took me a long time to get the detail right. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, once again, it's like this idea of, is she the show's trying to put her as maybe she's the accomplice, and I'm like, no, it's not her.
Well, and then she steals Shadia's toothbrush after saying like, I think I accidentally conjured the druid. I'm crazy.
I think she may say the sentence, I'm crazy.
She might as well, or just have a t-shirt like, doesn't help. You don't have to be crazy to work here, but it helps.
Yeah, it's like, she's not even like, the t-shirt is just I am stupid as opposed to I'm with stupid. Like,
yeah. And so Jen then stops her and is like, what did my crazy stepmom do? And Shadia is like, well, she stole my toothbrush. And Connor's like, hey, by the way, I'm gonna go turn off the furnace.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, I guess. Why did you have it turned on again? And Jen and Connor are like, Shadia starts to believe that Renee is the killer.
Yeah, and this is why Jen is a genius, because Jen instantly goes, right, anything to keep her on board so you can finish what you're doing. So yeah, she is kind of creepy. And look at all this stuff. And Connor, you need to just like face up to this. She stole all this weird stuff, and she's like, she's like, stole my cotton buds that I used to clean my ears and all the rest. She could be involved with this.
Right. And she's like, you and I are going to go to your apartment and we'll hang out there away from Crazy Renee while Connor's going to turn off the furnace. And then once that happens, we'll all go back to our place and see what's what with Renee. And when they go to Shadia's apartment, she and Jen see Amy's cat. And Shadia is like, wait a second. Why is her cat out here? I mean, it seems strange that she wouldn't be in Amy's apartment. Maybe we should go investigate Amy's apartment. Yeah.
And Jen's like, maybe we should just stay here.
Well,
why do we need to go? And it turns out Shadia's got keys because she cat sits.
Yeah. And
so maybe she's the killer, Bo.
Shadia is like, maybe I'm the killer. But they go into her place, and in one of my favorite details of the episode, she's like, wait a second, something's wrong, even though Amy is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
And Jen is like, well, everything looks okay to me. And she's like, that's just what I mean. Normally, Amy's bathroom looks like a shit wagon. And it's way too clean.
I mean, they don't shit in the pan, they shit in the bath.
Yeah,
in the tub.
Have you heard of an upper decker? That's what she does all the time. and Jen is like, I mean, I think I saw Renee with a bar of soap from Amy, so maybe she's the killer after all, I guess.
Maybe.
And all right, so downstairs, Connor is going to the furnace room with his axe to dump some more body parts in the furnace before he finally turns it off.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
things are getting suspicious now, so we need to get this fucking sorted.
Right. And Sheriff Dan and Angel have this like total over the top moment.
Yeah,
where they do the like clasp hands, where they're like, all right, you and I are gonna take this punk down. It's wonderful. It's very fun. All right, goddammit, we're gonna kick this little son of a bitch's ass. And then we go back to Shadia's place because we gotta, stretch all this out.
Yeah.
And she's
episode. Just make it one episode.
Right. So she's taken off her headdress. She gets in bed with Jen, and she notices like, oh my God, not only is there a lot of heat coming out of the vents, there is a smell. And Jen's like, okay, hang on a second. Now let me go get you something to drink to calm you down. And then Shadia kind of has a flashback where she's like, holy shit, I know what this smell is. Yep. This is people on fire.
This is burning bodies. It smells delicious.
Yeah, smells like chicken or pork, specifically long pork. But
yeah, she's kind of panicking, and then obviously it's going to twig with her very shortly that actually, wait 1 second, if Connor's the guy that's in the basement, Bo, and he's down turning the furnace off, and the whole place is very warm because he turned it on, and the place now smells of burning flesh. Maybe Connor's a killer.
Right. So she puts all that together, and Shadia is like, we got to get out of here. And when she finally tells Jen, like, Jen's like, why do you want to leave? And she's like, look, I think Connor is burning bodies in the furnace.
Yes.
And starts putting all the clues together. Like, look, he was, he disappeared sometimes during the course of the night. And then Jen is like, no. Half the time when those murders were happening.
Yeah. Half the time.
Yeah.
She's like that. No. Like, remember all those times he was with you when all those murders happened? How could she know that?
Right. And so Shadia is like, well, we got to get the fuck out of here. And she's starting to take off out of the apartment. And she's like, Jen, you need to hand me the phone. We need to call the police. And Jen won't give her the phone. And Shadia is like, fine, I'm going to go by myself. But then she starts like weaving around all drunk like and passes out because, surprise, surprise, Jen has drugged her tea just like she did Renee.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait 1 second.
Yeah.
Could Jen be a killer as well?
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, here's my surprise face. And quick check in with chat. Alan says the talk of Amy's bathroom is a clear slander against asexuals. It's a good point. Very insensitive. And DJ says the actress who plays Renee really got to let the cuckoo out of the clock in these past 2 seasons, and looks like she's enjoying the scenery. Yeah, this season in particular, she is like, turned it to 11 for sure. Which I'm fine with. I'm fine with it. She's one of the better parts of this season.
100%.
And so then Shadia wakes up tied to a chair with Jen and Renee looking on. And Jen's like, look, I'm going to go take care of Connor. And Renee, meanwhile, is like, we ought to turn him in.
Yes. Yeah.
And Jen's like, no, because everyone that he killed was guilty of being complicit in the death of Justine. So, like, he is not innocent here, but everything that he has done is justified.
Yeah. And you can kind of see, like, once again, one of the few things that the show does kind of well is, like, Sadia's face, where she's like, she's hearing both sides, she's hearing both angles. She understands that Renee obviously agrees with her, but she's kind of crazy. And on some level, she doesn't fully sympathize. I believe on some level she understands where Jen is coming from because she's a friend. So
for sure. And we get this flashback, because of course we do, to a year ago where we see Sheriff Dan spray painting some shit. And then we get like Dawn's website, Noah passing around this eviction notice to get rid of Renee and Justine, and Amy saying people need to be held accountable for what they do online. It's like all the stuff.
Yeah, because this is Sandy's interaction with everyone in the building, like charting all those. And that last one is where she basically asks Amy if Amy can find a way to take the video offline of Jen's mum burning herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, when something's on the net, it's up there forever. Which is a reminder to everyone out there: when you post something online, it never goes away.
Yeah, so. Be careful. Yeah, like the rule of thumb I always use on the internet is don't say anything on the internet that you would not say to someone in person.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's not even that. Yeah, that, and don't post pictures of your penis or store them online. Never
Unless you would show your penis to the person.
To anyone that I wanted to.
Yeah.
Someone said, get your dick out, and you would get your dick out, then it's fine to have it in the cloud. So.
Yeah. Like we've all sent a dick pic now and again, but usually to friends and family.
Just at Christmas time.
Have you ever sent a picture of your penis to anybody?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes. Without getting into too much detail, when my best friend turned 30, he got a picture of my dick with a bulb of it.
That's very funny. I've only done it with like girlfriends who are like, "Hey, send me a picture of your dick." And like,
that's it.
I've only done it on request.
It had been an ongoing joke for about the best part of 5 years about what do you get your best friend when he turns 30. Mm-hmm. And I was like a picture of my penis with a ribbon above it. Mm-hmm. And I'd said it so many times that when he turned 30, I sent it to him, and he found it very, very funny, but also I don't know if it brought us closer.
Yeah. It depends on if he's jealous or not, I guess.
I didn't ask. Never asked.
Yeah, like if you follow up, like, hey, by the way, what'd you think of that?
Yeah, what thoughts, observations? Did the color of the ribbon bring out the veins on the dick? I don't know.
Questions or concerns?
Yeah. So, I just like, see if you zoom in on the top right hand corner, there's a little rash there. Is that normal? Like, right. Do you have that? Seeking medical advice?
Also, I know it's irregularly shaped.
Yeah.
It's not asking you a question.
Yeah. Does yours talk to you as well? I mean, that's the weirdest that it starts asking for things.
I call mine Belial. Anyway.
Mings calls me Seymour for some reason.
Feed me, Seymour.
Nice. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So Shadia is like, oh my God, Jen, you're one of the killers too. And I was your alibi. How fucked up is it that you like both used me so that I would say, no, they were with me all night. And Jen is like, here, I got a great idea. Let's just throw all this shit in the furnace. we run away together. With our if we toss some clothes and some shit of ours in the furnace.
This is literally Tim Curry's plan at the end. The Clue.
Like they'll think
stack all the bodies neatly in the library. We'll close the doors and we'll all walk away and pretend that none of this ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's just like, hey, they'll find all this shit in the furnace and they'll think we were victims too.
Yeah, and
she also reveals like, oh, I'm the one who planned all this shit because Connor, God bless him, not the smartest guy in the room. He wanted
to jump off the building in the previous scene, so
yeah,
I'd already told him that was a bad idea a year before, and he doesn't learn. So
Renee is like, we need to call the police. This is all too much. And Jen is like, hey, enough of that shit. In fact, let me just wait right there, Renee. And then she I'll be
right back. You're gonna love this. It's a scream, baby. It's a scream. Ah!
And then just stabs her a bunch in the gut.
We now know that she's the dick stabber because it's the same fucking like multiple shibs. She'd do great in prison, Bo.
Oh yeah. She like, I don't know that she knows how to make a shiv, but once she got one, it would be like that episode of Breaking Bad. Yeah, where like a bunch of people get shivved in prison all at once.
We could call her the Queen of Shiva.
Nice.
Thank you. Like, as soon as I said she did great in prison, came up in my head and I was like, that's very, very, very witty. So
yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
There you are. That's your present. From Book of Correct.
And honestly, this episode, the audio version of this episode, will be landing on Christmas Day. So
Merry Christmas!
Yeah. So anyway, she says, "Look, Connor's gonna be real pissed that he missed me stabbing Renee. He's really been wanting to do this for a while."
Yeah.
And so for no good reason, Jen just goes to put on the druid costume just so
this
she can
is the most baffling scene ever, because she goes away, puts it on, comes in front of Sadia to take the thing off and show that she was the druid all along.
I guess.
Yeah, we got that. We got that though.
Right. And then she's just like, hey, I'm going to go get Connor so we can sit down and all talk about this because neither of us want to kill you.
No, because you're the only one that didn't do anything bad. So like we want to, we're protecting you. So
yeah. So back in the furnace room, we're like we are hurtling headlong towards the end of this.
This is amazing.
So
this scene is fucking amazing.
Sheriff Dan and Angel decide, hey, we're gonna join forces. So when what they do is Angel jumps Connor. Sheriff Dan gets this shovel and like whacks Connor in the head. And then Angel shoves Connor face first into the furnace and holds him there. And Sheriff Dan is like, God damn it, you're going to get yourself all burned up, man.
Yeah, he holds the top half of his torso and the rest of his body in the furnace. But instead of like, then once you've got him in there, clearly he's now dying. I take my hands out and push him at the back. No, I'm going to put my hands in there with the flames and just go,
Right. And finally, Sheriff Dan is like, God damn it, get out of there, and pulls him out of the
Get out there! He does like Christopher Lloyd from, it was Star Trek 3.
Yeah. Get out! And
no, Star Trek 2.
No. That's Star Trek 3 is Christopher Lloyd. Yeah. Because
it's Star Trek Spock. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Get
out! Go!
Join us soon on our Star Trek chat.
We will do it eventually.
Probably. I mean,
yeah, it's inevitable at this rate.
But anyway, so sure enough, it reminded me.
This is such a stupid death. It's such a stupid death.
Right. Angel dies just from the shock of having his arms burned.
He pulls them out and they look like a couple of really well done ribs, and my mouth watered in a way that I didn't think was possible. I was like, oh.
Dude, it reminded me, did you ever see that Mr. Show sketch where the band Titanica goes to visit David Cross in the hospital?
No.
First of all, you should. But the whole gag is that it's David Cross's head and they've got the sheets pulled up. And they're like, oh, hey, little dude, we know you're a big fan of Titanica. We heard that you were in a horrible fire. And he's like, hey, yeah, I was. Oh my God, you're the best man in the world. Can you give me a high five? And they're like, sure. And they pull back the sheet and it's just beef jerky. You know, it's like two scrawny little arms and legs, and they've got them like puppeted in such a way that they're just flapping around real fast. You absolutely, like, listeners, if you've never, just look up Mr. Show Titanica and you will get this sketch. It is tremendously funny. And they're just like physically ill at the sight of him and everything. It's wonderful. But that's what it reminded me of. It's very
Angel's gone. He dies of crispiness.
So Shadia, meanwhile, manages to free herself by kind of wobbling her chair and knocking it over. So she's free now. Jen has gotten to the furnace room where she discovers Connor's body, and then Sheriff Dan is like, guess what, goddammit? I'm still alive. And so Shadia is running away, but she hears Sheriff Dan scream for help.
Why would he, like, he's like, the previous scene, Sheriff Dan's like that, right? You know, come get some. And then next scene he's like, help!
Help, goddammit! Help! Help! She's got me by the mustache.
Sadia's like that. She gets she's like, right, I'm gonna have to do this. So she goes back into the furnace and she confronts Jen to allow Sheriff Dan to escape, which he does without even batting an eyelid. He's like, you know, I'm not that I want to save this young girl here. He's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So he starts to go, and then Sadia and Jen have the shittest fight ever.
Well, yeah, Jen's got her knife. Shadia has taken the axe.
She's got an axe.
Yeah. And so Jen ends up stabbing Shadia a couple of times, and she gets sliced, stabbed in the shoulder. Jen gets an axe to the leg.
Yeah.
And so at this point, like, Jen's kind of down, and so Shadia takes off. And on her way to the elevator, she finds Sheriff Dan, who is just like, I just got winded. I could not make it all the way to the elevator, goddammit. So she's like, well, come on, we got to escape. So
I love this scene as well. I love this scene because she's like that. Did you kill Jen? And she's like, and then all you hear from the corridors.
Yeah, she just screams in pain and rage. And they're like, oh, goddamn it, I guess we better get out of here.
Daddy boy! Daddy!
Daddy! Oh! So... Shadia! So she is chasing them down the hallway. They get to the elevator.
Yeah.
Like, Shadia kind of collapses. Sheriff Dan actually helps her, you know, get to the elevator.
Yeah, they take turn about to the end of the episode about who's going to take lead and who's going to collapse.
Yeah.
But they manage to get upstairs and they get out, and as they're kind of moving along, like you're trying to get themselves together, and then the elevator starts to go again, and like, oh shit.
Right.
Yeah, and then another link back to Star Trek. Why does Jen have a bat lift?
Man,
this weapon is the most fucking severe, and we'd seen it once before because that creepy dude that wore the guy from school got that down his throat. But they just have it's the sword from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
it's a fucking huge blade that doesn't make sense. It's practical for no purpose other than cosplay or a slasher movie.
Right. So Shadia takes a fire extinguisher. and you know, whacks her in the skull, Jen in the skull with this thing. At which point Cloud's sword jams in her neck.
Yeah.
And
the most lackluster ending to a season ever.
Well, because Jen is
a killer.
Well, Jen is the whole time she's like, I loved you, and Shadia's like, I loved you too, and Jen's like, we were best friends, and Shadia was like, yeah, we were until you tried to fucking kill me. And
then she's like, you never did anything mean. And then she's like, well, yikes. Oh, it's getting warm in here, and we're not even in the furnace room anymore.
And so flashback to a year ago, where Shadia is has read the very first post that Justine made, or the one she made about how when Kit died, that he was a drug addict and was asking for it and all that shit.
And a slut, yeah, and a slut.
And Justine types, "Why would you flame the dead? That's so cruel."
Yes.
And that's it. That's all she says.
That's all she said. And as soon as she hit send, the internet agrees with her.
Right. The floodgates open up and they're like, oh,
no one was like, people were, it's that way where you see something, you're like, do I comment on that? Do I not comment on that? And everyone's doing the same thing. And you wait for the first person to comment. It used to be on YouTube where someone would write first as their comment. You were like, yeah, we can comment it now because someone wrote first. Yeah, it's the same idea. Like, but it's so fucking nothing. But Jen she's not only mortally wounded to the neck, but she's mortally wounded in her trust bowl.
Well,
I think this is what kills her.
Yeah, she died of a broken heart and a broken jugular.
Yeah, she's like,
yeah,
and that's her. She dies, but I'm like, is that compared to what everyone else did? Is that the worst thing?
And it wasn't.
Like, well, she kicked off. Well, she started it.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, oh, you fucking bitch, you deserve to die.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. It was just like, why would you say that about somebody? It's not.
I'm with her on this.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing you could say. Like, it's not like she was like trying to shame Justine or anything. It was just like, this is kind of uncalled for in this situation, and the comments that follow are way more severe.
Like, well, the first one that comes after is like, burn, bitch, burn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean,
right. So
the internet, because remember, the internet's bad in this TV show.
I understand that it just isn't that bad,
No.
Like her said, if it had been a moment of weakness, like we needed to see Shadia say something really shitty, as opposed to like, well, that was really mean.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to somebody? But that would at least make her more complicated and interesting.
I'm going to give it a big this. I'm going to give it a big W for whatever.
Yeah.
It's a total whatever moment. I'm like, this adds nothing to what's happened.
Right. But so Shadia says, oh, this was all my fault. And Sheriff Dan is like, what? I've said way worse shit today on the internet.
Yeah.
Even when 100%. I was down in the furnace pit, I was calling this Jewish fella all kinds of terrible shit.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm better. I'm better now. Don't we?
Yeah, I'm cured. We're gonna get to this because the two of them walk out of this apartment building to like triumphant music as two people that are just coming out of the solstice party walk down, and we get this really long, awkward interaction where there's like that. Hey, great costume, man! And then the two of them just stare at him for what feels like 5 minutes, while the guy's like, and I'm just like.
Yeah,
and then he walks off, and then that's
kind of it. There's this kind of crane/drone shot of them all bloody and leaning on each other, and that's kind of it. Somebody pointed out in chat, DJ pointed out in chat, that the Final Fantasy victory theme should have been playing. That would have been quite funny. And
well, we get this shot, and then that's it. There's no post credit. There's nothing. I mean, this season, unlike other seasons, has 100% made you know who the killers are and killed them off. At least that's as similar to season 1 without the extra stab of the girl snapping the neck of the cat for no reason. This one, we're closing everything out. We have our 2 survivors. One of them we knew would be a survivor. We knew that from the first episode. The second one, the racist.
Yeah, he makes it. The good guy Sheriff Dan, who, was terrible to his daughter, to his entire
100%, 100% terrible to his daughter, was 100% terrible to everyone in his building, was a member of a white national group, survives.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's learned his lesson, apparently, and
he'll never be bad again, Bo.
He'll never be a racist piece of shit again.
Never.
It's again, it's super head-scratching.
Baffling.
All right, so Duncan, let's because we're going into the 4th season next year, let's ask ourselves one important question.
Yes.
Is this the worst season of Slasher?
Yes. The ending isn't the worst season of Slasher, but I think see, let me parse it out. I think the first season, in hindsight now, the first season is okay. It's not great. It's not great, right? It's terrible, but there was enough things in there to make me think, right, at least it's, like we said before, at least it's paying homage to a couple of ideas we've seen before, the deadly sins. The killer has a degree of righteousness about him. The reveal was kind of obvious, but I didn't like the show, but overall, I liked where it ended up. The stab was terrible at the very end. The kind of post-credit thing was terrible. The second season, its biggest issue is it genuinely thought it was much more clever than it actually was. Right to the end, it still thought it was much more clever.
The Ren stuff was supremely stupid.
I was unbelievably stupid. In fact, the lengths he went through to make it look like Ren was a real character, even into the last episode, was mind-blowing. Like, remember him just like being like angry, like in the interview room when he was being like, oh, I can't believe you guys are going to do this. No one's speaking to him. And then he walks out the room and then his mum comes in and says, so yeah, unbelievably stupid, right? But there was at least, like, there was Dawn in that series, and I like Dawn as a character.
Yeah.
There is no one I like in season 3. Not even Sadia. In fact, I like her even less now that she thought she caused all this by posting something on the internet. There's no likable character. All the deaths were dumb, and I think the politics, the actual social politics and the commentary there within in this season is hugely problematic, where it wasn't in the previous season. I think it is like really, like, I think, and I read somewhere online where that slasher gets woke because of all the inclusion in this series, but it's not one real representation of any one person. And I think that's the argument that it's not woke. You know what I mean? Oh, they've got gay characters in it that are foreign, so it's totally woke. Yeah, but they're not real people. You know what I mean? They're not portrayed or realized in any real way, shape, or form. So it's, if anything, it's like not woke. It's, it's all that stuff. The ending to this one, which I know everyone had been hitting us up with, oh, wait to get to the worst ending ever, is actually not the worst ending. The worst ending is season 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Ben shows up at the very end with his mum, like, standing at the doorway in a mannequin shop going, you've come back to me after all, son, that I just, got rid of. It's just fucking stupid. But overall, this season is absolute fucking trash. It's a hot garbage fire of a TV show from front to end. It's just, its ending wasn't as bad as the previous season, so...
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think Angel comes the closest to being a real character.
Yeah.
But it's all just
the closest to come to be about a real character who, gave his ex-partner the wrong drugs to see what would happen. Sent his new partner's fucking wife like videos of them fucking just through spite. He's a horrible person, but his monologue about I always try and like look out for the best in people and all this stuff is the closest this show has to a message of kind of inclusion, but it's handled in the it's handled in a slasher way, which means it's handled in the most clumsy, blunt way possible without necessarily understanding what the message means.
Alan has maybe the best idea, which is that it should have turned out that Shadia's parents were the killers. Which would have
it would have made sense in any other slasher context from the 80s. If a character leaves at the start of the movie, they're the killer. So yes,
I don't disagree with anything you said. I think that this is probably the worst season. What was it? Was it episode 2 or 3? The one where we were just like, this is just vile.
I think like by the time we got to the death of a gamer chick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is one of the worst episodes ever because they just destroy a character who it gives us backstory to make her the most innocent character in the whole thing.
That whole bit about her being in the car accident and everything. Yeah, it was exploitative in a way that was shitty even for slasher standards. Yeah, I 100%. Think that episode alone makes it the worst season.
Yeah, it's the worst. That one is the worst episode of slasher ever.
So we've got one more to go. but at least we've got David Cronenberg.
Yeah, on paper it has everything. Like its premise is stuff that I love, which
Yeah.
is like all my family have to stay one night in a building to inherit my fortune. I love goofy shit like that.
Yeah,
and it's got David Cronenberg in it,
so
which I love.
We shall see. We will be back in the new year for that. In the meantime, Duncan.
Yes.
Where can people find more out of you this holiday season? Because a lot of people have this whole week off coming up, so they can just dive deep into the big old pool that is Duncan.
So
That pom-pom is quite something.
You can check out my stuff on tputscast.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just type in podcast under the stairs. Tons of stuff. I think I've been doing consecutive days of releasing now for about 2 weeks. So loads of stuff are there. If you listen to one thing this December, though, to get you through all your prep of wrapping presents and making dinner, and you need something to get you right through it, myself, Bo Ransdell, and Doug Tilley did a 7-hour odyssey through the back catalogue of one Mr. William Friedkin that I would highly recommend. It was an incredible podcast. 7 hours, but I'll tell you, didn't feel 7 hours recording it. The edit and the re-listen, because I have re-listened to it, goes by super fast. So yeah, check that out. Teapots Collective for all the other stuff, but tputscast.com is where you can find everything I do.
Excellent. And for my end things, you can check out legionpodcasts.com, where you can find everything I do as well as that of many other podcasters. And the main show that I do these days, aside from this and Pick Six Movies, is a show called The Dark Parade, which drops about 3 episodes a week. There is a main episode on Wednesdays and then bonus stuff on Mondays and on Fridays. So enjoy. We're wrapping up. As you listen to this, the next episode will be the final Black Christmas remake with one Mark Ball. And so I watched all the Black Christmas movies this holiday season, which was fun. And 2 of the 3 were really good. I enjoyed 2 of the 3 of those a lot. And the third one at least led to, I think, an interesting conversation about it. So
You've been very kind.
Yes. At any rate, thanks everybody for joining us this early morning for the chat. I hope everyone has the happiest of holidays. It has been a pleasure once again to spend a year with my friend Duncan, as well as all of our listeners and viewers. You guys are the best. And the only thing left to say is say Merry Christmas, Duncan.
Say Merry Christmas, Duncan.
Yay! Now you'll be visited by 3 ghosts.
Oh, no! I do have the pom-pom for it, so we're fine.
Bye, everybody.